Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County and our co-sponsors, welcome to this forum for candidates for Peninsula School District Director position, District 2. Thank you to the candidates and to the audience for taking time to participate in this forum. I am Liz Knox, moderator from the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization whose mission for the past 105 years has been to encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We conduct candidate forums to provide voters with information on which to base their votes. League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County wishes to acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, surrounded by their traditional waters in the shadow of Mount Tahoma. We actively seek inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and current realities. This forum is for the general election, which is November 4th. When the League holds a forum, all candidates are invited. With us at this forum in ballot order are Emily Ducharme and Matt Bruhn. Ground rules have been sent in advance to the candidates. Candidates, you each agree to follow the ground rules, including agreeing to those regarding any recording of this forum and to speak only to the issues, not about each other. Please indicate your agreement to all ground rules with a nod or a thumbs up. Thank you. Questions for tonight will be 60 seconds in length. Our timekeeper is Terry Baker. She will use a timer to let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining, 15 seconds, and when it is time to stop. When you see the time has run out, you may finish a short sentence. Please stay on gallery view so that you can see the timekeeper and the moderators. Also, please mute yourself when it is not your turn to speak. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. These will be given in ballot order. After that, the order of answering questions will rotate. Each candidate will get the same amount of time to answer in every case. At the end, closing statements may be up to 1 minute and will be given in reverse order of the opening statements. If you have a question for these candidates, please text the question to 253-948-6029. Again, that's 253-948-6029. Depending on the number of questions submitted, we may not be able to get to them all. The order of the opening 2-minute statements is in ballot order, so we will begin with Emily Ducharme. Emily, please go ahead with your opening statement. Emily, you can start. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry, my internet was going in and out there. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here or watching this later. My name is Emily Ducharme. I am running for Peninsula School District position 2, school board position 2. A little bit about me. I have lived in Gig Harbor since 2011. My husband and I have 2 kids, both of whom are in the Peninsula School District. I have a high schooler and a middle schooler, and my kids have only attended this district, and throughout that time, we have really experienced some of the incredible joys of public education and a lot of the challenges. My son received special education services, and so through that, we have just really experienced the whole spectrum of good and bad, and that is a large part of the reason why I'm choosing to run for the school board. A little bit about my involvement and my background with this school district. I have, the entire time that my kids have been in this district, I have volunteered. I've sold popcorn on Popcorn Fridays. I have helped plan auctions. As my kids have gotten older, I have run athletic booster club programs and done all of the things that happens, and big supporter of our PTAs. And I do all of that because I just really believe that parents investing in our schools really works to strengthen our community. Another piece of my involvement is that I founded the district special education parent advisory committee. I'm really proud of that group. We started from a small group of parents that were just concerned and wanted to build bridges, and we have now won awards for our service to the community. And that's just a little bit about me, and I'm looking forward to sharing more throughout this evening.
Thank you, Emily. And now Matt Bruhn, 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody who is watching now or later. Thank you for putting this event on and for getting me out of bedtime routine with my two kids. So I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and we are approaching bedtime. They go down about 7, and it's going to be chaos. So they know to be quiet in your dad's door today. Um, Thanks again, everybody. First time candidate here, relatively new to Gig Harbor, just moved out here about 3 years ago from West Seattle. What drove me to drive for this, to run for the school board, is that I believe if you're going to complain about something, you better be willing to step up and do it. So Emily and I both were sitting there coming down to the last couple days, and nobody had signed up. And I'd assume from what I've heard, she had the same thing of somebody's got to do it. So we jumped in. So really excited about that. What's really driving me in this race is really threefold. One, every time I talk to a parent, an educator, a student, the number one issue that I hear in the district is communication. There's a lack of communication and transparency. It's not even how things are being resolved, it's that the communication's not there, and that's causing a lot of frustrations. Second is the educators. I still have friends that were my teachers in high school. I think teachers really make the difference for students, and we need to treat our teachers as an asset, not as pawns that can be moved around and just numbers on a spreadsheet. I believe that's why I was endorsed by the Peninsula Education Association, which is a teachers union here. And then third, and equally as important, is I need schools to be a safe and equitable place for everybody. It shouldn't matter which side of the Purdy Bridge you live on, or how much money your parents make, the color of your skin, how you identify. Schools need to be an equal place for everybody of every ability to get the same level education. So it's a little bit about why I'm running. I'm really excited to dive in on those topics a bit more as we go.
Thank you. And now we will start with the questions, and each candidate will have up to 1 minute for each question. We will begin with Matt Bruhn. The first question: in your view, what has the district done well over the last 5 years? And is there anything the district has done poorly that you would change?
Yeah, so good question. 1 minute is absolute lightning round here. I would say from everything I've gathered, as I mentioned, I've been here for just a few years. It sounds like the district has done a good job financially, all things considered. Department of Education is getting gutted right now. Funding is going down. And our district is in a much better financial spot than many districts out there. So very appreciative to that. When we look on the flip side of areas we can improve, I mentioned the communication, and that goes from everything from the harassment, intimidation, and bullying study, where we saw that that's an issue. I don't believe it's just in our schools. I think it's in our community, but we need to communicate. We need to be able to acknowledge that things aren't good and then build from there. It's not about what everybody else thinks of us. We need to be the best district we have for Gig Harbor. So I'd say positive side, financials, challenge or area of improvement is definitely going to be the communication and transparency.
Thank you. And Emily, same question.
I will echo what Matt said. We have been here for a long time, and Ashley Murphy, who is the CFO of the school district, is phenomenal. She is probably the best hire this district has had in the entire time that we have been here. It's very impressive that what she has done and just the way she has approached situations and really set the district up for more long-term success, especially considering what this situation is with some of the districts in our area. Another thing that I think the district has done really well over the last 5 years is they've started to listen to parents. They've started to listen to and viewed parents as partners in their child's education. I would love to see us take that one step further, and instead of just listening, let's take that listening and do something with it and turn it into action, because that's really how we enact change and how we make things better. And so that's what I would say.
Thank you. And for our second question, what are the biggest budgetary needs you see in the near future in the school district, and how will you address those needs? And we will start with Emily.
There's not enough money, and the biggest problem with that is we can't keep telling our school districts to just do more with less money. So we really need to look at the biggest areas where the funding needs to come from. And the state, Washington State, has a paramount duty to fully fund education. Like that's what you have to do. And so it starts with looking at what do we need to, what needs to happen in Olympia? How do we lobby for that? What can we approach? How do we make things happen? Because the prototypical funding model that the district is funded on right now is severely outdated and just doesn't work anymore. And so the board needs to take a step up and make things happen and get more funds flowing in.
Thank you. And Matt, same question.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Emily. I think that things need to change at the top and it goes above the district. These policies and formulas that Emily's referencing are dating back to when I was in school, and things were significantly cheaper back then than they are now. So the cost for a single student to go through school has changed. We want to make sure, like I said, that we can keep these great educators here in the district. I do think it's our duty to always be looking at the budget and making sure that we know where we are spending. We want to make sure that we're spending in the right areas. We want to make sure that things are equitable for all students to be able to have that access. It's not just, getting the vote so that we can build a brand new school. Yes, some of our schools need to be updated. I also believe very strongly in maintaining what we actually have. So I really want to focus on the maintenance and maintaining these buildings. I went to a school, University of Washington, that has buildings from the 1800s on campus that they still actively use. We shouldn't be tearing down buildings because they're 30, 40 years old. We should make sure we're taking care of what we have.
Thank you. And for our next question, how would you help to create a climate in Peninsula schools to lessen the incidence of bullying? And what steps would you take to ensure that the school district addresses this issue? And we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, it's a good question. As I mentioned in my opening, it's something that's a big part of what I care about. And I know it's a big thing of what Emily cares about as well. Bullying is something that's impacted me, impacted my children. And as I mentioned, I think it is something that goes outside of the schools. So I think that there's a lot of community involvement that we need to do. Children, especially at the elementary school level, do not go to school to be mean to other kids. They're learning behaviors from others, and we need to make sure that we're addressing this. So I really think the community involvement, getting out there, working with parents, hearing what's going on, taking all of these very seriously. We had enough complaints that we had to do a report last school year. That is something that's very significant and we need to take seriously. I would say that in order to grow, we do need to face where we have these issues, and being transparent about them and working together with the community and with the parents, as well as equal enforcement of policies across campuses, is going to be what makes the change.
Thank you. And Emily, same question.
It's really frustrating because especially in a district our size, with so many schools and so many kids and just a variety of different buildings, there are really good pockets of schools that have phenomenal culture and lower incidence of bullying reported. If you look at the reports by the numbers, I just would love us to really take a look at what's going on in these buildings. What are these administrators doing? Why is it not as big of a problem here? And then how do we replicate that in other buildings? And how do we get everybody on that same page? I think the other piece is that we really need to have our teachers and our administrators approaching this bullying with just making sure that it's practical learning, but also this is not how we treat our friends. And we need to change the culture around the bullying piece and just really address that and draw a line in the sand and make it unacceptable.
Thank you. And for our next question, some Peninsula residents note that there is overcrowding in the high schools, with concern for aging and unsafe buildings. What do you recommend as a plan to prioritize a new high school in the future? And we will begin with Emily.
As a parent of a kid in the high school, it is definitely classes are crowded. If you attend an event, there's no parking. We have to walk this delicate balance of yes, we don't want to tear down these buildings just because they're old, but this community doesn't look the same that it did when these buildings were initially built. And it's really time that we have to sit down and kind of look at our facilities and say, have we outgrown this? And I do think, I personally think it's probably, that is probably the case. And I realize that that takes a lot of questions. The district has a ton of due diligence to do on that, because there are, OSPI and the state puts out a lot of condition of building report cards and whatnot. And you kind of got to see what all is there. But I do think that's something we have to look at, and it is going to be a big problem. I don't think it is quite yet, but it will be soon.
Thank you. And Matt, same question.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something does need to be done. Though I've only been to the high schools for events because my children are in elementary school. They go to school now, Minter Creek, which is not far off that list of needing updates. I think something that's super important, and it's part of the due diligence that we need to do to be fiscally responsible, is look at the total picture. What are the costs of, building a brand new? What are the costs of updating and retrofitting? Emily's absolutely correct. Even in the 3 years I've lived here, Gig Harbor is different. Size-wise, we're growing. I can't imagine what it was, 40 years ago when these buildings were built. So it's very, very serious issue there. On that topic, we also need to look at, where we're going. Enrollment is coming down. We have people leaving the district, which is not great. So we need to make sure that buildings aren't just good for the next couple of years, where these children that are there now and bursting at the seams are going to be on. We need to look at the leading indicators that will tell us what we need in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Thank you. Next question. How would you ensure that all students are treated equitably, regardless of color, sexual orientation, country of origin, or economic status? And we will begin with Matt.
Yeah, no, great question. And again, very, very in line with how I opened up. Gig Harbor, if you think about it, and Peninsula School District it's a very unique area. We have probably some of the wealthiest families in the state, and also some of the lowest income in the state. I live out here on the Key Peninsula, and when we drive into the peninsula, it's different than when you're going through Gig Harbor. The demographic is different. So I think it's very important to look at that. My son has friends that have left his school to go across the Purdy Bridge. I can see it from my window because they have better programs over there. My son lost STEM because there's not enough students because they're going to other schools. So I think it's important to look at that. Everything does come down to finances, unfortunately. So we need to make sure that we're finding creative ways to have equal opportunities at these schools, no matter where people are at. So it's a deep dive on finances to make sure that we're giving those opportunities to everyone.
Thank you. And now Emily, same question. I'm a really big fan of the phrase equity up. We in Gig Harbor, we're really blessed to have just incredible nonprofit organizations who love to come alongside the school district and kind of work and help to fill those gaps. I really strongly believe that your access to opportunities or experiences should not matter what your zip code is or what the color of your skin is or anything else like that. That should have absolutely zero impact. And that the district as a whole tends to be like, well, but we don't have enough kids there. Well, okay, what can we do? How can we make this work? Because it should not matter. If the kids at Purdy can have it, then the kids at Minter should be able to have it also.
Thank you. And this is a reminder to our audience, if you have a question for these candidates, please text the question to 253-948-6029. Our next question. The most recent data available from OSPI for Peninsula schools show that 77% of students attended classes 90% or more of the school year. What are your thoughts about school attendance, and how do you see any way to improve the number of students who attend school regularly? And we'll begin with Emily.
That sounds low. I'll be honest. I would have expected our numbers to be significantly higher. that is frustrating. I would, first of all, I would be interested in looking at those numbers pre-COVID and post-COVID. I do think I am guilty of it occasionally. It's like, dude, I cannot book this appointment at any other time. And so you got to pull your kids out for, a couple of classes here or there. I just wonder what's the, I don't know. I would be interested in looking at that. I would expect those numbers to be significantly higher. And it's a little concerning that maybe there's a mentality that like school attendance isn't important. It's definitely important. And I would hope that our educators would be working to convey that to people. But at the end of the day, it is the parents' choice if they've got to pull them out for one reason or another. And obviously we don't want kids going to school sick. So there is that too.
Thank you. And Matt, same question.
Yeah, as somebody who won an award for never missing a day in first grade, this is near and dear to my heart. No, I mean, school is very important for a lot of kids, especially in our area. School is an escape from a home life that maybe isn't the best. It is a place where they get their eyes open. Like I have a kid who started kindergarten 2 weeks ago, and I swear she's aged 10 years in the last 3 weeks. It's insane. So school is very important. Attendance is important. I'm not sure if the data, I haven't seen that data. If it is, as Emily said, pulling a kid out for a doctor's appointment, now they're there less, or if it's days they've actually attended. But I think it all comes back to community involvement. Why are students missing? Is it because they don't have safe or reliable transportation? Is it because they don't have a home life where, maybe they're taking on more than any kid should have to take on? I think you have to get into the data and understand why it is and sort of diagnose the problem before you just have a blanket solution. But I think community involvement is a good start.
Thank you. And for our next question, data from OSPI also shows that there is a gap in readiness in the 6 areas assessed for kindergartners entering Peninsula schools. 58.5% of all students were ready for kindergarten who entered, while 37% of low-income students entered ready. There were other demographic groups who were also less ready. What would you propose to improve readiness for all students entering kindergarten? And we'll begin with Matt.
Yeah, I think a program that we have out here that is great and will become more prevalent in those numbers is the transitional kindergarten program. When we first moved here, our son was coming from the Seattle Public Schools where they had a public preschool program. We came out here, he did qualify for it that first year, and just going to school, riding the bus, being able to go to the library, have PE, all those things, I think really set him up to where he's now a thriving second grader. My daughter unfortunately didn't qualify, which is fine because that means that there's people that needed it more than her. And I'm glad that those children got spots. So I think continuing to expand that program, yes, it costs money, but I think that has made a really big difference there, is having that opportunity to sort of get that first step in. I know that if my kids weren't in a reliable daycare or anything like that, being able to get an introduction to school would really set them up for success.
Thank you. And Emily.
Coming from someone who paid for preschool in Gig Harbor for many years, it's not cheap. And most of them don't partner directly with the district. So you're, it's a bit of a crapshoot as to what level of readiness any of these preschools that are available, if you're fortunate enough to be able to pay for it. So what level your child's going to be at by the time they go to kindergarten. We definitely need to expand that transitional kindergarten program. I would love, Renton Public Schools has an incredible early learning center where they have just their TKs and their preschool programs have just expanded, and their kindergarten readiness numbers have to have increased with access to that program. I would love for us to look at something like that, something along those lines, so that we have a free or a low cost option available, and something that in the long run is going to benefit every child in this area.
Thank you. Our next question: how will you protect the civil rights of students, parents, and educators, particularly in regards to freedom of expression related to social media or online presence? And do you see any limits to this protection? And we'll start with Emily.
I don't see any limits to this protection. Our teachers and educators and paraprofessionals and coaches have to have the ability to be who they are when they're not at school. And I don't think that we can limit that. And that's a hard line in the sand for me. I didn't agree with the staff expression policy when the district had it. I was very glad that they had suspended it or whatever they did to it. I'm not sure if suspended is the word, but they eliminated it. And that's definitely a hard line in the sand.
Thank you. And Matt?
Yeah, I agree that we have great educators and we want to continue to attract great educators, and we don't want to deter these great educators. And I think when you're limiting them being themselves, that definitely does that. I'm right there with Emily. In the staff expression policy, I've talked to teachers that obviously did not feel safe. They still don't, policy gone. They still are nervous, but we need to allow people to be who they are. My philosophy on it, as long as it's not getting in the way of them doing their job, no different than myself or anybody watching. If it's impacting work, then it's obviously a concern. But when it's not impacting work, it shouldn't be a concern at all. They have the right to be who they are, and they have lives outside of their profession, just like everybody else in this world. So yeah, I'm right there with Emily. We need to make sure that we're empowering people to be themselves, because who they are is what makes them great at what they do.
Thank you. And our next question, how would you approach curriculum adoption to ensure that it includes accurate information about racism in American history? And we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, I think curriculum decisions are a collaborative effort. I'm not an educator. I've never been an educator. I think it's safe to say at this point in my life that I will never be an educator. I also am not a school administrator. So I think it's important that we're empowering the people that we have put in place, whether it's a superintendent, district administrators, or principals and teachers, to be able to make those decisions. That being said, something that people will learn about me pretty quickly is I don't hold back how I feel about things. So I think it's important to always share the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's part of the transparency that I mentioned. There's great things about our history, and there's things that we look back on and wish didn't go that way. But I don't think ignoring it or not sharing it is going to make it better. I think it'll actually help us make sure that by instructing it, make sure that we avoid those things in the future.
Thank you. And Emily, same question.
I do appreciate the curriculum adoption process that the district already has in place, because it is very thorough. And the way in which they lay it out is that the community gives access to it, or the community is able to peruse it, and you get to hear everybody's opinions and everybody's thoughts, and really just do a real deep dive to make sure that things are complete and accurate and full, because we can't erase any part of history, and we have to, it's important for everyone to know and learn what happened and what all of these things looked like. It's the way it is. And so I appreciate that curriculum adoption policy, and I do think it lends itself to allowing just everybody to see what's there and to get a full, transparent understanding of it.
Thank you. And our next question, how will you encourage civic education, student engagement in government, and voter registration for high school students? And we will start with Emily.
I mean, they do a lot of this already. Having a high schooler, they've started talking about the importance of like the civic process and being involved in government. And my daughter's not quite 18, but so I don't know what it looks like as they start to get towards the voting age. I would hope that they would, highly encourage and make available, hey, let's make sure you're registered to vote. Let's look at all of these things, because we want to make sure, we want to look at the whole child. We don't just want to put out an academic weapon or a CTE child who's going through the trades or anything like that. We want kids that are going to contribute to our society and to, play an active part in local things like government elections and whatnot. So I'm not entirely sure what all they do, but I would love to learn more about that and make sure that those kinds of things are happening actively.
Thank you. And Matt?
Yeah, I think it's very important to educate on how things work. I know that when I was in school, we did a lot of that, understanding how government works at the local, state, and federal level. So I think that level of education is important. And then when it comes to pushing people to register to vote, I mentioned in my opening that I believe that if I'm gonna sit back and complain about something, I should do something about it. For me, that's what voting's always been. It has been if I'm gonna, be angry that, you know, they put in a new roundabout or something, which is a hot topic out here in Gig Harbor. I want to have a say in who gets to decide if that happens. So I think voting is super important. I think it's something that I instill. I'm in a sales leadership role and professionally, and I have a team, and they never miss a survey because it's your chance to be asked what you think of something. And I see voting the exact same way. People need to make sure that their voices are heard. And I think empowering people at a younger age to know what that process can look like, and it's not your one person, your vote doesn't count, is super important.
Thank you. And our next question, how do you envision helping the most vulnerable students achieve success and graduate, especially those who are homeless, migrants, live in foster care, or have disabilities? What programs and support should we have to help them succeed? And we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, a lot there to cram into 1 minute. I do think it's very important that everybody, no matter their background, has an equal opportunity to learn. As I mentioned earlier on, school is supposed to be a safe place for people to go. I had friends growing up where school is where they got away from their home life. It's where things were not great at home, and school is where they could be themselves and not have the stress of everything going on in their home life. And our community is no different from anywhere else in that regard. So I think access is super important, making sure that children, as we talked about with the attendance, are able to get to school so that they can have that safe learning environment. I am a big believer in mental health facilitation. My son talks to the counselor often at school, and it really helps him. And I think investing in that and the overall mental well-being of students across the entire district is very important and something that we should continue to look into and invest in.
Thank you. And now Emily.
I believe the question focused on graduation, so I'm gonna stick with that. We are super blessed in this district to have at current time the position is shared, but it's a success coach, and that success coach really hones in on kids who may be experiencing homelessness or any other type of crisis at home. And that is one of those positions that when we talk about budgets and whatnot, I'm like, we have to keep this success coach because that person has become so vital in just helping keep those kids connected and making sure that they talking with teachers and really runs as a liaison and making sure that those kids stay on time to graduate. This is way too much to try to cram into 1 minute. As far as disabilities, making sure kids with disabilities, it's parents as partners and making sure that everybody's on the same team and really working through that what the family's vision long term for that child is, the school is working to help support that. Look at that, I did it.
Thank you. Our next question. Recently, there has been an increase in challenges to materials in public school libraries and classrooms in various places. What is your position on censorship, and how should challenges to library and curriculum materials be handled? And we will start with Emily.
This will go right along with my previous answer. I don't support censoring any of the materials or let the kids have access to it. This isn't gonna, again, we can't erase part of our history. We also can't eliminate books that some people have decided should be banned. It's not, nobody wins in that situation. We don't, these are all things that every child deserves to have access to. And there's absolutely no reason that they should not be available in libraries or digitally or however these kids want to access them, they should have the ability to access that.
Thank you. And Matt.
Been saying this a lot, but totally agree with Emily on that. I think that it's important that students have access to all the information. There's plenty of books out there that I disagree with, or wouldn't be my choice to read, or anything like that. But I think the access is important. The books that are at school age children levels should be available for all to access, because it's better for them to experience those things sort of in a somewhat controlled setting, where they do have support system. There's people who can help them talk through or answer questions that they may have. And yeah, I think it's just important that everything is out there and people have access to it.
Thank you. This next will be our last question, and then we'll go to brief closing statements for each of you. So our last question, do you believe our schools have adequate security? Why or why not? And if not, what ideas do you have for improving security? And we'll go to Matt for the first answer.
Yeah, very important question. School is very different now as a parent than it was as a student. Seeing what my two children in elementary school go through from, different drills that they're doing, it very much impacts you different as a student or as a parent. I didn't think of it much when I was a student and whatnot. I think that security is something that we always need to have updated. Yes, we do have multiple resource officers, and that is great. And they do a good job of involving themselves at the feeder schools that they belong to. I think technology has come a very long way, where that needs to be something that is facilitated in what we budget for, to make sure that we're doing good. I hear other people in the races, not on this call, talk about security systems at their elementary school, and I'm like, I have a little buzzer that I press when I get there. There's no turnstiles or any of this other stuff. So I think we need to make sure that we're investing in the technology that can add to that security, including updating, cameras and things along those lines. Quick one.
Thank you. And Emily?
Those safety and security officers that Matt mentioned have been a great step forward. Again, this is like one area where I would have imagined we would have just been consistent across the entire district, but not every building has the same security. Even at Peninsula High School, all the doors are not locked during the day, like when the kids are in class. And that, to me, feels like a really big security risk, and not just because I have a kid there. But it just seems like we really need to look at even just the physical security of our buildings and just upgrade, or at least equity everybody up. How can we get everybody on the same page? Because the newer schools have what seems to be way stronger, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but just more improved security systems than what the rest of us have. And just would love to see that consistent across the board throughout the district.
Thank you. And now it's time for closing statements. Each candidate has up to 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll reverse the order of the opening statements. So we'll begin with Matt. Matt, go ahead with your closing statement.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody again for having us. I want to thank Emily for also stepping up to the plate and run. Very non-politician of me, because I'm not a politician. I think our district's going to be set regardless. I think Emily's a great candidate. If I wasn't running, I would absolutely vote for Emily. I'm going to vote for me. But definitely think that the district is in great hands. We agreed a lot on this call, and I think that our kids are going to be in a good spot regardless. Why I think that I deserve the support and why I want your support for anybody watching is, again, I think it's very important that we open up and are transparent and improve the communication of the district. I think we need to continue to make sure that teachers are feel like assets, not just employees. They are what will make and break a student's success, not anybody on the board. It's going to be the teachers impacting their lives. And then making sure that our district continues to strive to be the most equitable and welcoming place, not just being the best in the state or the country, which is something that we obviously strive for now, but being the best for Gig Harbor and the surrounding area.
Thank you. And now, Emily, your closing statement, please.
I really hold this strong core belief that every student deserves the resources, the opportunities, and the support that they need to thrive. I have learned that. I've seen that firsthand as a parent, as my work on the CPAC. And one thing that I've really learned is how powerful schools and families can be when they work together, but also how frustrating that can be when there are barriers in the way. And what I want to bring to this school board, if I am elected, is persistence, passion, and persistence, but all in a way that just puts every kid first. You know, at the end of the day, I'm just a mom who loves this community, and I really do believe in our schools, and I'm not afraid to do the work. I've been doing the work for 10 years, and I just really strongly believe that it's time to stop trying to fix our kids to make them work into the system, and we really need to look at the system and fix that so that our kids can thrive. And thank you for having me here, and I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you. I would like to thank the candidates who joined us tonight for Peninsula School Board District Number 2, Emily Ducharme and Matt Bruhn. For viewers, please be sure to vote for the candidate of your choice before Election Day, November 4th. Please mail or use a drop box to deliver your ballot as early as possible. Remember, late ballots are not counted and our mail can be slow. Thank you also to our timekeeper, Terry Baker, to Cynthia Stewart, our Zoom master, and to the committee who planned this forum. Be sure to read your voter's pamphlet and look up vote411.org, where you can find answers to questions posed to the candidates. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening, and don't forget to vote.